That's the place to go on your funny page.
So that'll be my summer vacation.
That sounds great. Where is your weather?
The Sheridan St. Pete.
Yeah, that's a nice place. I just
Good morning. I'd like to call this meeting of PSTA to order. Thank you all for joining us for this May 28th meeting. I'd like to start with a moment of silence, if you would rise. Thank you. Commissioner Diamond, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We will now move to our public comment. Do we have any cards from the public? If you'd like to speak, you'll be given up to 3 minutes to speak on an issue. Okay, and the first speaker we have, and I'm going to mess this up, Vitrell Farrell? Sorry about that. Was I even close?
No.
Okay.
Please correct him. Beatrice Farrell.
Thanks for being with us.
Good morning to the assembled committee members. My name is Beatrice Farrell, and I'm here representing the Deuces Live. We're Florida Main Street, located on 22nd Street in 22nd Street South in St. Petersburg. The purpose of my visit is to ask that while we're going through, I know everyone's really focused right now on Greenlight Pinellas, but during that process, I ask that you consider how the bus routes are now currently. 22nd Street is beginning to see a lot of activity, and currently there is no bus traffic on 22nd Street. There are surrounding bus routes, and as our area redevelops, one of the things that we're looking for is increased activity on the street, and part of the clientele that we serve do not have cars. So I'm informing the board that we will be submitting a formal letter to request an adjustment of the routes to maybe on a every other basis to come down 22nd Street. The board has in previous, and you do have some routes that have, I think you call it interrupted service, where you'll have a route go one way, and then maybe on the second route it'll go another way, but it sort of allows individuals that need access to public transportation the ability to get it. So thank you very much, and again, please look upon our request with renewed interest and possibly a favorable answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Farrell. I think that those points are right on target. You know, there's a new Midtown campus of St. Pete College going up on 22nd. Job Corps is there. Of course, Sylvia's is there. So there is a lot of development there. Did we have north-south routes on 22nd Street previously that you recall?
My understanding historically, no. I think prior to, and I can't speak to anything more than 50 years ago because I'm not that old. So.
Well, I think it's a valid point. Commissioner Newton?
Sorry for my tardiness. I just got through the traffic, so come on, Greenlight. Yes, I was down at the presentation, Greenlight Pinellas presentation, and they brought this up. I think currently we have one route that goes across 22nd Street at 9th Avenue South. That's the only one, but there's no service on that corridor. As you know, we're getting ready to open a Midtown, actually a bigger campus on Midtown St. Pete College. Also, we have the Job Corps on that end, some microbreweries, a lot of businesses. You got the Dome Industrial Arts District, the new Walmart down that end and whatnot. So there's no Northwest transportation, no public transportation from PSTA providing that route. We was talking something about maybe, and I mentioned it to Brad, I asked him how we would go about even starting a conversation. The CAT runs all the way up Central, and it goes to past the grill currently, and I know between 22nd Street and 16th Street, we got approximately, I think it's 15 or 20 businesses because of the interstate, the way the interstate goes. There's nothing on the interstate. And I was envisioning something maybe every other shuttle, maybe to do a right on 22nd, go down to 18th Avenue, up 18th Avenue, back to 16th Street, back in on Central. You pick up a lot more businesses. There's also, you can see with the robust business growth, Sylvia's down there and everything, it's another opportunity to pick up some revenue through advertising, and also your service and need. So, but I didn't know how to get that conversation started. I didn't know if that's something we did in planning or how we would even go about trying to accommodate those new businesses and that expansion on the Deuces.
Thank you, Commissioner Newton. Mr. Vice Chair?
Excuse me. I'm sorry. I don't know what area you're talking about. It's very.
I got to invite you down to beautiful District 7.
It's, the area is located in,
Do you have a map that you could show?
I can show you on your map, but.
It's 22nd Street South.
22nd Street
just
South.
west of Tropicana Field.
Well, it's not. Well, it's Fifth Avenue South, which is Fifth Avenue South. You've been to the Pinellas County Job Corps Center? You've been out there yet?
No.
Okay. Well, the Job Corps Center is located on 22nd Street, Fifth Avenue South. You also have. We just did a ribbon cutting on Luma Screen, new Midtown business that provided.
You have a map right over there,
Have a map.
on the wall.
Well, I don't think we're
Able to
going
see
to
that.
all be able to see that, but let's try to get it back on focus. It's just west of Tropicana Field,
Right.
which is
Yes.
16th Street.
Yes.
So you come over about 6 blocks,
Yes,
not counting name streets, to 22nd Street.
yes.
Okay.
It's
And
22nd
that's the
Street.
northwest corridor.
Yes, it's 22nd Street, yeah, 22nd Street in South, 22nd Street South in St. Petersburg off Central Avenue. So if you've been to Tropicana Field, you've driven by us. If you've gone on Central Avenue, go in the streets.
Let's ask staff, Commissioner Newton, you've already spoken with Brad on this?
Well, I mentioned it to him. I just for some guidance because I didn't know which way to go. The concern had been brought to me even before the Deuces Live brought it up before Greenlight Pinellas presentation. We had some interest from the Dome Industrial Arts District. As you know, they hire shuttles to do the arts things, but we know we have people coming off of the beaches, going to the Dali and all the other museums we have downtown. So we're trying to, like I say, service a need and at the same time maybe generate some revenue.
Well, this is also in the middle of our CRA that
Correct.
the county and city are working together on. So if there's consensus, can we ask staff to take a look at this and report back to us? Okay.
Those are old maps.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're on it. Thank you.
For your attention.
Any other comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to our awards and recognition, starting with 3A TSA base review and scoring.
Okay. Good morning, board members. Jim Egbert, our Safety and Security Manager, is here to tell us about yet another security award the PSA is soon to get.
Thank you for the promotion. I'm only a supervisor, but I'll take it. I'll take
That's
it
official.
anytime. This morning, what I wanted to take a minute for some bragging rights with PSTA Safety, Security, and Training Division. We've again exceeded our expectations in our base assessment score, which is the baseline assessment for security enhancement. It's conducted by Department of Homeland Security's TSA, and they come in every 3 years and they assess basically every single portion of PSTA to make sure that it's in line with every other transit system in the United States. This year we've increased our score to a 99%, which passes our previous score of 98%. The program itself is designed to establish security standards to transit system security programs. It's a comprehensive review of our security program, which focuses on multiple categories identified by the transit community as fundamentals for a sound transit security program. They include the topics such as security plans, our security training, our participation, and also our own drills and exercises that we have with outside agencies, along with within our own departments on how we handle our security situations. Also, it involves the checking of new hires, their backgrounds with the HR department. And this year, the new portion of it was added with cybersecurity, which is becoming a large issue. So the program analyzes the security program, it identifies all of the opportunities to which we can further enhance our transit security. It was developed to increase the domain awareness, enhance prevention and protection capabilities, and further our response and preparedness of transit systems nationwide. BASE is aimed at meeting the requirements of the 9/11 Commissions Act Security Assessment Section, which directs TSA to identify all of our critical assets, our infrastructure within our system, and their vulnerabilities, and they will then assist us, our authority, to address our security program. The scoring for this is the same, whether you're a 150 bus operation anywhere in the U.S. or a 1,500 bus operation. It's the same 17 sections, all the questions involved in each section that we go through have to be answered. And again, I just wanted to let you know, because I myself, along with my partners in the division, are proud of the fact that we're unable to surpass our 98% score last year, even if it was by 1% to a 99%. Thank you. Oh, by the way, this also puts us in contention for the coveted Gold Standard Award, which some of you may remember we received a few years back. So if that happens, we may need a bigger trophy case.
Outstanding job. And Mr. Egbert, the problem is once you reach perfection, you have to maintain it. So you're 1 point away. Outstanding job. Outstanding job. Next, we'll move to item 3B as Brad moves up front for a very special recognition of a very special person.
Hey, good morning.
Morning.
Is this working? So, of course, I'm here to recognize our retiring scheduling manager, Sue Lanham. Sue, come on up for me to roast you. Sue has worked at PSTA for 31 years and is one of the few PSTA employees that has worked in every single one of our facilities. She started in Clearwater, right, and then got a promotion in 1987 to be the division manager down in St. Pete, and then here, back to 49th Street, and then back to here. I wanted to bring up two things. You know, Sue, the scheduling manager, is sort of like the heart of the whole transit organization. It's our biggest controller of costs for the budget because it's how the drivers get paid, and it's obviously something that is very, very important to our customers as how the service gets scheduled. She has led her division amazingly for a very long time. The two things that I want to recognize her from my own career that I think is amazing about Sue is, number one, she's the only scheduling manager I've ever worked with that can cut the service, which PSTA unfortunately had to do back in the heart of the recession in 2008 and 2009, and ridership went up. And maybe that was because people needed the service more and had to ride it more. But where I worked in Iowa and in Charlotte, we cut the service and we tried to keep the ridership from tanking any more than it could. And so that's an amazing testimony to the art that Sue has practiced. The other thing which Sue has done perhaps more than anyone here at PSTA is she has been a mentor to many, many PSTA employees. And she has groomed new folks that come into the organization in her department as schedulers and been very altruistic, I guess, to the other department managers by allowing them to steal her successful employees to go work in other departments, whether it's in finance or planning or marketing. A lot of people have gotten their start and had a great mentor in Sue, and that will be sorely missed. Her latest mentoring projects, one is she's been working on for a while, but her daughter has just started working for PSTA as a customer service representative, and so learn from the best. And then as she departs, our newest scheduling employee, an intern, Mohammed, is in the back. He maybe doesn't want me to introduce him, but Mohammed is from Saudi Arabia. He is on loan from the new Mecca public transit system, Mecca Suncoast Transit Authority, or whatever they're called, there, and he is learning the ropes on scheduling at PSTA. So it's going to be a huge burden for PSTA to replace Sue and her skill that she's provided to PSTA for a very long time. But I think she's a very talented person who has certainly left her mark on PSTA. With that, we have a lovely gift here. Janet, I'm looking to you to help describe this. Pretty neat. Describe it.
Well, it's a piece of art glass, and it's something that Sue can remember us by. And unfortunately, we didn't have the plaque today, but her years of service will go on here. So it's something that when she's around her home, she can display it and talk proudly about working with PSTA, and that we love her very much, and that's why we wanted to give her such a beautiful gift.
Oh, very nice.
I just want to say that 33 years just blinked and they went by. And there are so many people that I could thank that helped me along my way. And I hope you give the lending hand to everybody here, because that's why we're such a big family. We can go to anybody here and ask for help, and everybody here at PSTA will help you. They'll stop what they're doing and they'll help you in that moment. And I'm just so proud to be part of that family for so long. So God bless you all, and I'll be the lady way in the background watching, though. But thank you all, and thank you, Brad.
The rest of Sue's non-PSTA employed family is also here in the front row, her husband and granddaughter. Right after the board meeting, there'll be we'll have a little reception.
Thank you, Brad. And Sue, on behalf of the board, I just want to thank you for your committed and dedicated service. I know this was a lifelong passion for you. You not only handle the technical aspects of scheduling, but I specifically recall back when we had to cut routes and we had citizens coming in talking about how it affected them. I know that you took that to heart, and you not only cared about the technical aspects, but about the people we serve and what PSTA service means to them. So on behalf of the board, thank you so much for everything you've done. And I hope you get some rest in retirement. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to the consent agenda. Item C, the settlement with Angelo Aggregate, is being pulled. Is there a motion for the balance of the consent?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We'll move on to action items. 5A, the FY 2015 through 2019 CIP.
Mr. Chair, on page 31 of your packet is an action item to approve of PSTA filing its annual grant application with the FTA. We were required to have a public hearing, which we conducted at the beginning of the planning committee meeting last Wednesday, and there was no public comment submitted on the list of capital projects, which follows along with our CIP. So this is a requirement for you to approve the application to the FTA.
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any questions? Okay, there are resolutions attached to this?
Yes.
Okay.
Page 53. 14.
Counselor, do you need to read those?
Yes.
Okay.
Resolution 1405, a resolution of the Pinellas Suncoast Coast Transit Authority authorizing the filing of an application with the Department of Transportation, United States of America for grants and/or grant amendments under the Federal Transit Administration Act of 1964 as amended.
Move approval of resolution 14-05.
Second.
Okay, any questions or comments? Do we need to take public comments on this?
Yes.
Any public comments on this resolution, 1405? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. And 1406?
Resolution 1406, a resolution of the Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority authorizing the filing of an application with the Department of Transportation, United States of America for grants and/or grant amendments under the Federal Transit Administration Act of 1964 as amended.
Okay, and a motion on that?
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, any questions or comments? Any comments from the public? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, that takes us to item 6, our information item. 6A is the FY 2015 budget personnel assumptions.
Okay, so the FY15 budget, which starts on October 1st, will be presented to the PSTA board next month at your June meeting. That's the schedule we follow. The draft budget is presented to you in June. We have some discussions about it in July. We present to you, and you consider approving the trim notices in July. And then in early September, we have our 2 budget hearings. For those of you who are on a city council, it follows a very similar process. Prior to the June presentation of the full budget, the planning committee of PSTA, 5 members with Chair Bajalski, goes through the details of the budget, starting back in February with the capital plan, new services, and then this month, the month of May, we look at our largest single set of budget items, the personnel-related costs for compensation and benefits, and the assumptions that the budget is putting in to those tentatively to come back to you in June. So I'll go through the PowerPoint that I presented to the Planning Committee, but please know that the Planning Committee did review this in significant detail, made some suggestions that ultimately we'll incorporate into the final budget document along the way. Of course, it doesn't, it's hard to make assumptions about the personnel compensation levels and benefit levels without having a sort of a higher level picture of how we are looking overall with the FY15 budget. And so we have already, and I want to thank staff for working very hard to go through line by line through our entire approximately $62 million budget and looking for literally dozens or perhaps even hundreds of ways to be more efficient or to improve services throughout. After all that is said and done, at least tentatively, we have checked our overall budget situation compared to our plan, which is shown on the screen. You have seen my little alligator chart there with the arrows for now a couple years now. That's the PSTA board adopted 5-year budget plan that shows how we have a balanced plan moving into the future, and then ultimately looking at Greenlight Pinellas to expand and have a sustainable program into the future. We also now have in our toolbox the Ernst & Young 50-year plan, looking out where Ernst & Young has provided a model, a spreadsheet model that shows how our budget needs to be maintained out to 2050. And so we have checked both of those, and I'm pleased to say tentatively even including these personnel recommendations, we are favorable to both the PSTA budget that we've had and that you adopted last fall, and the Ernst & Young plan that, that they put together last fall as well on the long-term plan. Again, PSTA's personnel expenses, salaries, benefits, wages, account for about 60% of the overall PSTA budget. That's actually quite favorable to our peers, pretty much as you can expect in any service industry. Wages are going to be the bulk of the budget, and I think the transit average is a little bit higher, about 2/3, and we're a little bit below that. Some good news on the FRS. I would say good news. There's still going to be a cost impact to actions that the Florida legislature took, possibly in the middle of the night, but it's not as bad as it has been in years past. Last year we took a $650,000 hit when we didn't expect it. This year, the net impact to PSTA of the changes in rates that the legislature approved is about $95,000. The two biggest personnel assumptions that we have to make are on health insurance and on wages and on wage adjustments. First, on health insurance. PSTA has 2 unions, and we have 2 labor agreements. The smaller labor agreement ends this October, 2014. The larger union agreement goes for another year until 2015. The agreements are somewhat tied as far as compensation goes, because the supervisors, the smaller union, are tied to making 5%, or no, I'm sorry, $1 above the highest bus driver wage. So when the bus driver wage goes up in the one contract, that drives up the other labor contract because it's a floor. In the 2012 labor agreements with both unions, back in 2012, 2 years ago, we signed agreements that historically, for the first time in PSTA's history, had the employees paying for their own health insurance. That had nothing to do with Sue's retirement. But last year, the first year of this agreement, PSTA's health insurance rates went down. We hired a broker for the first time, and the broker came through, and maybe this is part of their selling thing, I don't know, but they negotiated a better deal with Cigna, and the rates went down. So the employees got a reprieve, a slight reprieve. They didn't have to pay anything for another year. It looks like now we've assumed a 10% increase in these numbers and in our budget, that we're going to see the first increase that is going to cause the employees to have to pay a small amount for their health insurance. Like I said, we have preliminarily included in the budget a 10% increase. We found out late last week that from our broker that they have negotiated a 6.1% increase in our overall rates, and that still could change slightly depending on activity over the next month or so. It's probably hard to see on my chart, but you have it in your packet as well. I show down on the bottom, of course, PSTA offers 4 different types of health insurance: employee only, employee plus child, employee plus spouse, or employee and full family coverage. As you can see across the first row, employee only, the total premium, and these are all in per paycheck. Per paycheck, it costs PSTA $352 for an employee's Cigna health insurance, and they didn't pay any of that in 14, 0. And in 2015, at a 10% increase, they will pay $10.82. And since it's a 6%, it's about $6 and some change per paycheck.
What's the pay? Is it every 2 weeks or every week?
Every 2 weeks.
Okay.
I put together this little chart from the information I could find easily. Some others maybe have other information. Comparing PSTA to other municipalities in Pinellas County. So at the top in the white is PSTA, Pinellas County, Dunedin, and St. Petersburg. single coverage. That just means for the employee only. And you can see of those 4, PSTA, at least currently in 2014, is the only public that has their employees not paying anything for the single coverage, 0. Clearwater doesn't have their employees paying anything at the moment. So you can see there the total premium cost for the single. This is the amount that the health insurance charges the organization. For PSTA is $320, and an employee pays 0. In Pinellas County, they pay. These are all per paycheck. $39. Dunedin is straight 10, and St. Petersburg is pretty high at $78 per paycheck. Then you can see on the right-hand side the percent of the overall premium that the employee at each entity is required to pay. So St. Petersburg is the highest at 25%. The employees are paying 25%, and the city of St. Petersburg is paying 75% of the cost of the single. And it goes on. In the transit industry, it ranges all over the place, but it's very PSTA is still one of the last to have no contribution by the employees. Down at the bottom is the family coverage, not the intermediary, child, and spouse, but just the full family coverage. And you can see the total cost, the amount that the employee has to pay per paycheck. PSTA and they're all pretty much in line with how much family coverage costs, and then the percentage that represents of the total premium for a family coverage. Obviously, this is something that we plan to implement because it's in our labor agreements. I think it's a very good thing for PSTA to move forward. We have a growing wellness initiative that we really are trying to promote within PSTA, but the fact of the matter is it's been hard until the employees are actually paying and sort of start recognizing that we're all in this together. It's all of our own health that drives these numbers. It's going to be a tough go at it. But once folks are starting to pay, and it's going to be, to start off and for a while, be a very small amount, $6 a paycheck, people will start recognizing that it's important for them and their families to be healthy and to take advantage of some of the programs that PSTA offers. Moving on to the compensation recommendations for fiscal year 15. In the labor agreement, the 3-year labor agreement that we signed with our largest union, and by definition then it flows over to the other union, there's a 1%, a straight 111 was the agreement, 1% increase for 3 consecutive years. Fortunately for the non-represented employees, 2 of those years had 0% increases on the non-union side. Last year, over and above the labor agreement 1%, the PSTA board agreed on a merit-based compensation lump sum one-time program of $500 for unionized employees. We have worked out a program at PSTA with our union where that $500 is allocated every quarter based on attendance and not having any discipline. So the vast majority of PSTA employees are getting the full bonus. They get $125 a quarter if they show up to work and have no discipline. And that has been, we think, so far in the first 2 quarters, successful at actually improving attendance amongst our operators and mechanics. It's been very good. The merit-based program for non-union employees that we worked out is based on merit. It is not going to be handed out until the end of the year, and it's based on a manager's performance evaluation of the employees.
I had a question for you, Commissioner Smith.
How many non-union employees do we have? Non-union?
About 90.
90.
About,
All right.
90 non-union and about 500 and change union.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
What I'm recommending for fiscal year 15 is to maintain the labor agreement's 1% increase for unionized employees, but increase the lump sum attendance program from $500 to $750 under the same program we have today. That actually, for the average bus operator or mechanic, represents more than another % in compensation, but it's a lump sum and it's based on attendance.
And that would apply to the 500 employees?
Yeah. What I'm recommending for the non-represented employees, the administrative employees who are not in a union, is a 100% merit-based 3% adjustment to their salaries. Now, this is also a change, somewhat like the health insurance. This is a change from PSTA historical practice. For a long time, not forever, but for a very long time, the non-union employees of PSTA have gotten the same increases that their union brothers and sisters negotiated in their contract. That whatever the union's contract called for, that's what the non-union employees also got. And I'm obviously recommending a change to that practice that I believe is important for PSTA. The non-union employees, again, are not in a union, and their compensation is it's important to maintain based on competitiveness within the market, and to make sure that we can hire good employees at PSTA. That is how I'm coming up with the recommendation of a 3% merit-based adjustment for those employees. And I have a little bit more on that, but we obviously have to be very mindful. It's the majority of our employees and our labor agreement strategies moving into the future. But we have this very successful compensation program for the attendance that we would add to the labor agreement. We have done some survey of what other cities and the county are considering for this coming fiscal year's budget. Pinellas County is looking at a 3%, Dunedin 3%, St. Petersburg I think is looking at a 2% adjustment, and Pinellas Park 2.5%. I don't know what some of the other cities might be looking at.
Brad, on the previous slide, what does the 3% equate to in dollars, roughly?
Let's see. So the median administrative annual salary at PSTA is just about $48,000 or $49,000. So what is that about $1,500, $1,400, something? Yeah. My next slide is a hypothetical example. It's not an actual employee. It is a hypothetical example to try to demonstrate the difference and why I think it's important to respectfully look at the union salaries differently than we look at the non-union compensation. The green bar on my chart represents a hypothetical bus operator or mechanic union employee at PSTA that was hired in fiscal year 2008. The blue line on my chart represents a hypothetical administrative employee hired at the median salary PSTA, which at the time was around $47,000, on the exact same day as the bus driver was hired. So the two employees start on the same day. The wage for the bus operator is on the left-hand axis. Starts off at just under about $11.50 an hour at PSTA on day one, and it grows to now about $22 an hour. The non-union average employee that started in 2008 started at around $47,000 annual salary, and has grown to about $48,500 over that same period of time. Now, again, this is hypothetical, but what I'm trying to show here is that even though the PSTA board has every year approves of the annual increase or approves of the labor agreements, and has approved only 1% or 0% for the last several years when we've been in the recession, Our labor agreement for a very long time also has what are known as step increases. Step increases that are automatic bump ups based on years of service at PSTA. The steps themselves go up by whatever the board approves as far as the percentage increase. So if the board approves in the budget a 1% increase, all of the steps go up by 1%. So this employee that started on January 1st of 2008, they get whatever percentage is in the budget, plus their wage goes up by a step each year, which can range from 8% to, in that fifth or sixth. Okay, in the later part of their progression, goes up by 32%. That's that big jump in the green line. So, again, it's just a different. It's not worse, or it's not something that I'm recommending changing. It's been in place forever. That's the way the labor agreements are set. But I think it's just important to look at the administrative employees, which are accountants and planners and customer service, or not customer service, they're in the union, HR people, differently than we look at the bus operators and mechanics.
So, Brad, the largest step increase is in year 5?
6.
Between years 5 and 6.
And do you have a breakdown of where our employees are in terms of years of service?
We do.
Where are the bulk of our folks on this progression? Towards the right, or
over 50% are at the top. At the top. Over half are at the top, just under $22 an hour. Long-time employees, although that number is decreasing. I guess as the economy improves, more people are now retiring or moving on. And there was a time there where people were sort of hesitant to retire, probably is consistent with your experience too. Last thing on the personnel budget is some recommendations I have that you'll see more about this in the overall budget picture, but are some new initiatives that I'm very thankful that my staff has looked at, ways in which we might improve the service or operate more efficiently into the future. And those will have an effect on the number and types of employees. First is a goal which I think totally ties with the overall goal of PSTA, is to invest in our employees. You all, just like me, sit here and see folks come to the podium from meeting to meeting and talk about issues that they have with the service, either operator issues or on-time performance or whatever, and we are trying to look at each of those items. But it's important that we empower or arm our employees with the tools to handle the situations that they see out on the bus. It's important for all of us to have good customer service skills, I know, but it's most important for bus drivers and customer service representatives on the phone to have those skills. And so what I'm recommending is a more comprehensive plan than we've done in the past for a customer service-oriented training program. This would not only develop a curriculum for new hires, which we're constantly hiring and having new classes, but for existing employees. And so it's $150,000 that we're including in the budget. Part of that would be for a consultant to help us put together this curriculum that would be embedded in the training program that we send all drivers and CSRs through. But that also has to pay for the bus driver to come to the class and have another bus driver out driving his or her bus. And so there's some wages in that number too. The other thing is I'm recommending hiring what we're calling a part-time operator coach. Right now at PSTA, it's really I would describe it somewhat militaristic, that we have supervisors that oversee the day-to-day operation, and too often they are caught in a situation where they're essentially disciplining or writing up issues that come up out in the field with the drivers. And It's kind of like a school or whatever. The only time that James Bradford or myself sees a bus operator is when something bad happened. And, they come to the principal's office. And, obviously we don't want that. That's not a very positive thing to have. And we want to provide more coaching opportunities. And if we see an operator going down the wayward path of having issues, that we can coach them into the sunshine, into being nicer or dealing with the situations in a better way. And so we're identifying that we want to hire we think we have perhaps someone in mind that has done this in the past on a part-time basis that would basically be a coach. We would identify a driver that was maybe having some discipline issues, and then this person would work with them directly to help them out and try to be sort of an advocate on that in that way. Second, in a totally separate area but equally important, is maintaining a commitment to our assets as far as our bus fleet goes. Our number one asset is our employees. Number two is the buses. And it's important to make sure that they provide good, reliable service to the customers. I know I get emails and you get emails about buses breaking down. And then, especially if they are in far hinterlands of Pinellas County, like what always seems to happen, they break down in Tarpon Springs and in St. Pete Beach. That is far away from here. And it takes a while to get another bus out there. We're recommending in the budget to deploy 2 buses out away from PSTA's garage with a driver ready to respond. We're going to start that as a pilot this coming June to see how that works. To have a bus out at Tyrone Square Mall so that if a breakdown or service disruption happens out there, they can respond faster. Proposing increasing the number of mechanics at PSTA from 38 to 40. This is still very low compared to our peers in our benchmarking groups. Our folks in the maintenance department do a very good job with our fleet, but that will certainly help maintain our fleet. And also our passenger facilities like bus shelters and our transit centers, increasing the number of facility repairmen from 3 to 4. In the marketing area, Greenlight Pinellas will essentially reach its conclusion this coming November, but our outreach at PSTA is here to stay. And it's very important that PSTA, even after Greenlight, continues to reach out and connect with our community and do what the community wants to improve the service. So it's not necessarily what my marketing department recommended as far as increases, but it's what I'm recommending to them, and they are thrilled with it, I'm sure, to have some more interns help out in fiscal year 15. We've already had a successful program through the Boley Center in St. Pete for now the last 2 years, where those are mostly high school folks coming in the summertime, partly subsidized by the Boley Center or I think the city of St. Pete and PSTA. We're adding to that coordination through the Agenda 2020 program, a couple of high school aged interns, and then a new program for some college interns, probably from USF or other college, a little bit higher level. And they will be focused in our marketing and our planning departments. The last issue is actually hopefully a cost-saving item, is again a focus on being more efficient by reducing our overtime in our bus driver ranks. We have done some more detailed analysis. I want to thank our finance department for doing this. Hiring more drivers saves PSTA money versus paying existing drivers overtime. That is a fact even over time. Having more drivers saves money because you reduce the overtime of existing drivers, and that's a net savings to PSTA. The problem is the PSTA is constantly hiring, and we can't keep up with the attrition that's going on at PSTA. Right now, the current budget has a budget of 370 bus drivers in it. And even though we hire every single day of the year, We run classes every single week of the year, right one after the another, with our one recruiter and our team of trainers. We can't even make the 370. We hover at around 360, pretty much evenly, going full speed in training of new drivers, just with attrition or retirees. And so what I'm recommending is looking at that bottlenecks. First of all, hiring a second recruiter for our HR department, because as our one recruiter told me during the budget discussion, you can only be on the phone with one person at a time. And trying to go out to job fairs or to P-Tech or other, and make connections with people in classes or in other places where we could get a better flow of good candidates to try to just increase the number of successful candidates that make it through our program. The other thing would be to overlap the training programs at PSTA so that there's a classroom part and then they go out and they practice driving the bus. So when the classroom work ends for a group of students, then the next classroom would start right away rather than waiting for the first class to go out and do their bus driving skills. Again, these are sort of the initiatives in the FY15 budget that we've come up with that have personnel impacts, but they're not the only initiatives that we plan and recommend for next year. You probably won't have time to go through all of them, but the staff has done a really good job of looking through the entire PSTA budget line by line and making some really good recommendations for fiscal year 15 on how we can always work to improve service for the customers. The Greenlight Pinellas program will start on November 5th, 2014. It will start right away. And this budget, while it doesn't necessarily have specific initiatives about what we would start on November 5th, we plan on putting that together and presenting that to you this summer about the first initiatives that would come out of the box on Greenlight Pinellas. It's obviously very important. It's what we're focused on right now, and it will continue to be focused following the vote on November 4th. So again, stay tuned. The Planning Committee will see the budget first on June 18th, and you'll see it on June 25th.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Let me first get Secretary Buljowski with the Planning Committee who's reviewed this, and then I'll get other comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had a very long discussion about all of the information that Brad and his staff presented to us. Most of our conversation was based on the 3% increase for the non-union employees. Some of the things that we talked about was how would that affect negotiations going into next year with the large union when they've been getting the 1%, and what that message is sending. But what we ended up concluding was that with the 1% that they get now, along with the steps, along with the possibility of a merit bonus of $750, that they were, it was an even break between the 3% for the non-union and what the regular union were getting. Additionally, Brad expressed his problem that he's having with hiring people at the right salary in those positions that he needs, and so this helps him get there. So in the long run, we were supportive of his presentation, but we did talk about it extensively, but then we came to that conclusion.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Okay, Commissioner Long?
Yes, thank you, Brad, for your presentation. My question is, what is the salary of a brand-new bus driver?
41.
So they start, the first day on the job during the training is around $10 an hour. And then once they complete the training, they start moving up. And then essentially it's on their anniversary, and then in some steps it's every 6 months. They get an automatic pay jump up to just under $22 an hour. And then once they're at $22 an hour, after 6 years, Then they grow by whatever the board approves, or the labor agreement calls for, 1%, and then the merit-based or whatever, they stay at that 20, just under 22.
Right, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Two questions. What's the highest paid driver, do you know? I mean, they start at 10. Do you know what the highest we have right now is?
Well, the highest wage is the 20, what's
$20.80 after 60 months.
$20.80.
You said after, there's percentage increases after that depending on what the board approves. So what's the top driver at right now, do you know?
Well, they get paid what is in the labor agreement, which is the
Okay.
$20.80. They get the $500 merit-based compensation on top of that, and of course they get overtime.
Right.
You know, if you take it on an annual salary, there are some people that basically live here at PSTA, and they make they make quite a bit more than their base wage in
Right.
overtime. Even.
Right.
It kind of varies all over the place.
Right. Well, I think it's a very good strategy to try to increase the number of drivers to reduce that $2 million annual overtime. And I can't help in my position is to try to draw some conclusions to private sector, and I realize there isn't a direct correlation between public sector and private sector. And while PSTA is at 60%, which as benchmark for public sector is really good, in the private sector transportation world, if you're over 40%, you're in real serious trouble. So what I'm suggesting here is I think that there's still some room for improvement, and I would like the Finance and Performance Management Committee to maybe take a little closer look at that.
Thank you, Commissioner Scott. Vice Chair Johnson?
The question I had was on the chart that on page 67, that's the one where the non-union folks change over time versus the union folks. We talked a good bit about that chart in the planning committee, and it really, for me to articulate and explain that to somebody else, I need a better presentation of how the steps show in that versus the other elements. So I would still hope that that could be developed.
Yes.
And as a result of that, that may be the recommendation that Brian just made to explain the 40%. I don't quite understand what his question was. Was it in the step increases?
No. That was really more of a comparison to private sector budgeting, that basically 60% of PSTA's budget goes towards personnel expense. In the private sector, if you're above 40%, you're in real trouble.
For labor?
Correct. For all personnel expense, right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And that just raises another question. When you come back and you give us some, I guess, averages for other transit agencies
Mr. Chair.
on what that number is, just a sec.
Yeah.
I mean, are we near the average for other agencies, or are we at?
Well, like I said, we've done a little. We've looked at our 18 other peers that we do benchmarking with about mid-sized transit agencies, and the average is around 2/3, 66%, and we're down around 60, a little bit lower than that. But again, we can look at the differences between a private sector model and ours and see where it is, whether it's the steps or exactly what drives that. Again, the chart really kind of is intended to reflect the steps. The step changes. I mean, the green line would be the same as the blue line, but for the steps that are embedded within the labor agreement.
Okay, so to Commissioner Scott's request, you're going to bring that back to finance?
Yeah.
Okay. We got several people on the list. I'm working down. Commissioner Latvala?
Thank you. And thank you, Brad. Great presentation, and I strongly support the recommendations that you're making. I think training and an initiative to get that overtime down are good moves as we go forward. Good plan, and thank you and the staff for the hard work you put into this. PSTA continues to improve and become a stronger public transportation system.
Thank you, Commissioner Latvala. Commissioner Mertz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Brad. Just one question on the 3%. Is that performance-based?
Yes,
So
completely.
Completely performance-based. So actually, the 3% from a budgetary aspect might be a little bit less depending upon an average. Some are going to get 3%, some would probably get 2.5%, something like that, depending upon the evaluation.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And we're starting to institute that with the merit-based program for the non-union already this year. That program is is $750 per employee, and so we put in provisions in place or I've said that no manager can give the same amount to any employee of theirs. So it requires the manager to decide on the various levels. You can't just say, okay, everyone gets $750 and move on. You have to actually think about it a little bit. And the whole goal is to try to create these programs that do reward the stars of PSTA. I mean, we have a lot of stars, and they need to be compensated for that. And it's often very easy for managers to not want to get into it and just give everyone kind of it's the same and treat everyone. And that's not necessarily. I mean, everyone needs to have a good compensation, no doubt. But we need to create a program that incentivizes good performance.
Yeah, I agree. I wanted that clarification as performance-based. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Mertz. Commissioner Newton?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Brad, that 3% is up to 3%, right? Because it's evaluations. They don't get a flat. Everybody get 3%.
Yeah, well, I mean, at least tentatively we have budgeted is 3% times the number of employees. What I'm probably going to recommend is that managers can, with some sort of cap, I'm not sure what the cap would be, but allowed to go over for an individual employee over 3, as long as they stayed within their overall budget, overall 3% budget.
Yeah,
so it could be under, could be a little bit over. It would be within the budget.
That's what I was talking about when I was asking about up to 3%, because when I was working at Xerox, we did the same thing. It was all performance based, and the manager got a certain pot of money, and some people bust their butt, and some people just show up and do enough to get a check under the radar, you know. So and that's okay too, that's what they want to do, you know. I mean, I had people. The argument was, I should be a manager. I've been here 20 years. Well, you've done enough to be here 20 years. You haven't done any training or hard working to try to advance yourself up. So it's always been performance based, and it makes them. It does have incentives to the people that really want to apply this stuff and go after it. Let me ask you, and I think my question is to Commissioner Scott down here. When you talk about 40% of the wages versus for private sector versus the 60 that we're at, is that living wages and benefits, or what are they paying them?
What I'm talking about is a percentage of budget.
Oh, the percentage of the budget going
Correct.
to wages.
Right. Going
I mean, but my question still, is that living wages, or is that just paying them no benefits and paying them by the hour, or how does that work?
Regardless of how you do it, if your budget is over 40% for personnel costs, then you're in trouble. I mean, there's plenty of private sector companies out there, so I got to believe that they're living wages.
To that question, Brad, how much does it cost for overtime hour versus a benefit and salary package? Is overtime hour cheaper than providing a benefit and salary vacation,
Well,
health,
that's
and all
what we
that?
looked at. The answer is no.
It's the same?
Overtime is time and a half. So a
Right.
$20 an hour employee is making $30 an hour for that overtime hour.
Okay.
And even with the benefits tied to a new employee, which
Right.
is the health insurance and the
Vacation,
FRS, that equates to less
$30
than
an
paying
hour.
that other operator $30 an hour.
Okay, fair enough. I just know a lot of industries manage it with overtime, and like I said, it depends on the wages that they're making. And my last question: does the non-union employees, do they have the opportunity to become drivers if they want to? Can they drive buses? Is that open to them, or they can't?
It's open to them if they qualify. Yeah.
So they can actually go to a PTA. I mean, back to a PTEC and get a CDL, and if they want to try to drive buses and move over to that side of the house, they can.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure everything is fair and it's not a
I was just
wall
kind of
and-
thinking, I don't think you would want me to be a bus driver. I'm not very good at driving. And I don't know about the other admin employees. They're not hired for their driving skill.
Next question, can you drive a bus? No, I'm just kidding.
Thank you, Commissioner Newton. Commissioner Barkley?
Thank you, Brad. Appreciate it. Great presentation. My question is, with regard to that slide on page 67, how is our retention of the non-union people, since their salaries tend to be plateaued at a fairly level range from starting pay?
Yeah. I would say, I mean, our retention is actually pretty much on par with other transit agencies, I think. What the real problem has been is when, and this example goes through sort of the leanest years of the recession, when, there were 0% increases, freezes on salaries, et cetera. And so what's happened now is when we do have vacancies and hire from outside the organization in, like we've had some examples in our accounting and marketing and other departments, the new person comes in, we have to pay them more. Not a lot more, just slightly more. And then people that have been here for a long time, sure enough, they come and they say, well, that's not right. And so then we have to make adjustments for existing employees just to keep pace. That's sort of the main challenge we have, is that we're not keeping pace with the outside market for these employees. And so then when we have to hire, we end up paying more.
And that chart also does not reflect if someone is promoted from within. So that only reflects that they were basically remain in their initial entry job on an indefinite basis.
Yeah, well, this is the median job. It's not the low job. I mean, this is the median salary of our 90 admin employees. So half make less than that, half make more.
Okay. Then I'd like to concur with Commissioner Scott that we talk about this some more in the Finance Committee meetings.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you, Commissioner Barkley. Commissioner Maroney?
Thank you. Actually, some of Brad's comments in the last 3 minutes sound like the sheriff's presentation to us at the county commission about how people come in.
A lot smaller, though.
Yeah, a lot smaller. But I like your approaches to the training and development and the customer service training. You can always improve on that, just like we can in the county. But my question to you is the hiring, other than to cover the overtime, other positions to hire, are you looking at that green light Pinellas passes? Because should it not pass, would you need these extra positions with the exception of the overtime folks? Would you need those for next year?
So the bulk of the employees that I'm recommending, the increases next year, are the bus drivers tied to the overtime reduction. So more drivers in the budget tied to overtime. So those would be those hopefully will actually save us net money against the overtime. Mm-hmm. I would still recommend the part-time coach on the training piece with or without green light. And then really the only other adjustment are the intern programs. We might, if green light is unsuccessful, we probably have to cut back on some of those programs somewhat. Again, this budget or these recommendations were not specifically for green light, and we'll come back to you with sort of recommended.
That was my next question. How many of these recommendations, with the exception of the overtime hiring, was because of green light, and you just answered it?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Maroney. Commissioner Dighton?
Just a couple of observations. Number one, I think that the $750 incentive that we're offering the union employees for the attendance, and your observation that this has basically brought down our overall costs by encouraging the proper attendance is a good example of sharing increases of productivity with the people who are responsible for it. So I think that's an outstanding program. And the second is that in light of our 60% our expenditure for our employees, they're one of our greatest assets. So that this idea of coaching them, I think, is absolutely terrific. As we just talked about Sue, she brought her people along, which is a very important thing. So what we're talking about doing with this asset group that we have is bringing them along and making them better employees, and that benefits everybody. And finally, Brian's observation about the 40% and 60%, I'm sure it's valid for the private sector, but I think as you mentioned, you really have to compare the business models. And when we do that, we might find that our 60% is not such an outlandish number. It is a question of business models. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Dighton. Any other comments or questions from the board? Okay, we have 2 follow-up items that will go back to finance based on Commissioner Scott and Vice Chair Johnson and Commissioner Barkley's inquiries. Other than that, do we have consensus to move forward with these assumptions?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well done, sir. We'll move on to 6B. 6B in the Greenlight Bus Rapid Transit overview.
Okay, I'll try to run pretty quickly through this. There have been some articles recently in the media about the questions about bus rapid transit and its role in the Greenlight Pinellas plan. Some saying we are not looking at bus rapid transit. Some are saying we are looking at it, or questions about how it actually will work in the system. So what I presented this to the ACPT and wanted to present it to you because bus rapid transit is a new component to PSTA, and it's an exciting component of the Greenlight Pinellas plan. Again, what we are proposing what we call 6 bus rapid transit lines throughout Pinellas County underneath the Greenlight Pinellas plan. It's actually 8 corridors because 2 of the corridors cover 2 of the BRT routes cover 2 corridors. Those services will be the highest frequency services in our network. They provide the skeleton of our Greenlight Pinellas network. I think it's important to look at each of those corridors as their own project within the Greenlight Pinellas plan. The milestones that we have worked with Pinellas County attorney so far and will be embedded within the interlocal agreement do call out the individual bus rapid transit routes as their own projects, just like the rail corridor is its own project. The six projects are 6 BRT routes. Number 1 is the St. Pete to the Beach BRT along the Central Avenue corridor in St. Petersburg, 1st Avenue North and South. Number 2, a Seminole Boulevard / Missouri route. Number 60, Clearwater Gulf to Bay BRT from the beach to Tampa International Airport across the Courtney Campbell. Of course, the biggest one of them all, the US 19 bus rapid transit line. Then the 2 routes that actually cover two corridors, 49th Street and East Bay, and 4th Street and Ulmerton. Each of those will be its own corridor, and it's a very important component to the bus rapid transit, the overall Greenlight Pinellas plan. Each of them is going to have their own separate environmental analysis. It's going to have its own separate construction schedule about building the station stops. And most importantly, each of those corridors is going to have its own public involvement, kind of like its own mini Greenlight Pinellas effort within that corridor to help define a lot of the details that are appropriately still to be identified or decided on following the passage of Greenlight Pinellas. I'm going to give some examples of that. This is not all of them, but some examples. First one, the most advanced bus rapid transit corridor in our plan is the St. Pete one, the St. Pete to the beach bus rapid transit. The reason it's advanced is because St. Petersburg and PSTA over the years has done multiple studies. And I can give you a tour of my office, and you can look at the entire shelf dedicated to this route that has been studied over the last decade. We're not going to redo all those studies. We're going to take what those are. The city of St. Petersburg is already taking those studies and has launched some early initiatives right now. They have an art in transit program where they've hired an artist. This is the city, has hired an artist who has identified themes for station stops along the corridor. There is a new service plan that's a part of the Greenlight Plan. Of course, the Central Avenue trolley, which runs on Central Avenue, is very successful. It's sort of the local route, so to speak. Or if you want to go from shop to shop, you would ride the trolley. If you want to go faster to the beach or a longer distance, you would make your way, theoretically, in an artistically infused way from Central Avenue over to First Avenue North or South to head to catch the bus rapid transit, the rapid bus, to go faster. The way there's some questions about exactly how that's going to work. We're proposing to have left side boarding so that when you go up to First Avenue North or South, you don't have to cross the street. From Central Avenue, it would be right there. But that requires PSTA to have buses that have doors on the left side, which we don't have any of right now. They would be the new vehicles that would board on the left side. They'd have doors on the left side. Of course, then that brings up the question, well, what about the other PSTA buses that run on that corridor, which they have right-hand doors? And we don't necessarily want people running across the street to catch the next bus that shows up. All those issues still have to be sort of identified. We had a very successful evening last night, late into the evening, down in St. Pete Beach, where they unanimously endorsed the Greenlight Pinellas plan. One of the key issues that they are talking about is a lot of changes in sort of their Corey Avenue area and capital improvements, maybe a parking facility down the road and a change to the way the roads operate. The terminus for our Central Avenue, or this BRT in St. Pete Beach, is at 75th and Gulf in a perhaps not so wonderful set of ancient bus shelters and kind of a not very nice landscape area at 75th and Gulf in St. Pete Beach. And the city council of St. Pete Beach, the mayor, has talked to me about having that be much improved and sort of a highlight to how the service can service the beach corridor. And so we would try to work with them, and they are trying to reorient the streets in that area so the location might change exactly in St. Pete Beach. In Seminole, we have a very successful route right now that goes up and down Seminole Boulevard, and the rapid transit is planned to go up and down Seminole, servicing the VA hospital and then up Seminole. Although, as you know, St. Pete College is also a very high demand location, and it's about a mile or so to the west of Seminole. And I've had, thanks to Commissioner Long, introducing me to a number of St. Pete College students who rely on the bus and basically attacked me in our meeting about how we can improve service for them. I'm connected to the St. Pete College students and we're going to have a discussion. We're going to have a discussion starting even next week, again with them, about whether or not the bus rapid transit or how it serves the college. Whether it's a feeder system that connects the college over to the main line on Seminole Boulevard, or whether the whole rapid deviates over and goes right by the college all the time. In Clearwater, again, that is going to be serving the beach. Exactly how it serves the beach and all the different hotels, especially during spring break and congestion problems, is still kind of an open question. Does the rapid transit pick up? Where does it pick up? There's a parking facility that's being designed, coordinating with that. Then, of course, US 19. US 19 has a lot of questions still to be answered. There's a rapid transit program called for the entire US 19 corridor. As it's being made into a freeway up in northern Pinellas County, is it more important that the rapid transit go faster and therefore run on the elevated freeway from stop to stop and then get off and then pick people up? Or should it serve more people, perhaps, but slower if it serves on the service lanes? We are already starting to work with FDOT and the city of Clearwater on trying to coordinate how folks are going to be able to access. Of course, another issue I know Mr. Johnson is very involved with is if you work on the US 19 corridor or if you are taking transit to the mall, how do you get back the other way when you have this new elevated freeway that's basically blocking your ability to cross the street? Do you go a mile or two north to then go around to go south? That's not particularly convenient. Do we have a whole bunch of feeders just to serve and get people from the one side of the street to the other? That all has to be worked out. Again, again, I'm trying to just summarize that it is important to note that these are important corridors, but just like the rail, they have a lot of details that will be worked out in the future, and that's important because it's most important that the public gets to have input on those decisions. It's important for the students in St. Pete College to have say in how their service operates. It's not a one-size-fits-all. What will be consistent amongst the rapid corridors is they will be the highest frequency routes in our system, the most frequent service, the longest running on the weekends and during the week. They will all have off-board ticketing, meaning stations, machines at the stations that allow you to spend your origami making time getting your dollar in at the station waiting for the vehicle to show up. So when it shows up, it doesn't wait for you. It doesn't have a fare box and wait for you. The doors open up and they close and it goes, kind of like a rail. And that in and of itself, the moving of the fare payment off board has shown in other cities that alone speeds up the time by 10 or 15%, just that across the whole line. Unique vehicles, branded vehicles, and again, limited stops, fewer stops along the line to try to concentrate the boarding and ultimately in the future development. BRT is a very important component to the Green Line Pinellas Plan. It's critical to the Green Line Pinellas Plan. In the short term, of course, it provides a travel time savings. It's a premium level of service compared to what we have out there today, because it gets you faster to where you need to go, and ultimately it provides higher capacity, not only for passengers, but for bikes, for wheelchairs, everyone who needs to get where they need to go. Longer term, hopefully, with the high-frequency services, this is where development will concentrate over time. That's what the Pinellas PPC, Pinellas new plan that they're putting together now calls for, concentrating future development around these corridors where the transit exists. If you are sitting here and feeling deja vu, you're probably correct. There has been tons of discussion about BRT and just basically no action for years and years and years. There have been votes by the PSTA board, St. Pete City Council, or the MPO in 2001, 2003, 2006, 2007, 2009, 10, 12 about let's do a BRT somewhere, or let's study a BRT line. The alternative analysis, for those of you who are involved with that, spent more than a year deeply analyzing the benefits of bus rapid transit versus light rail. And every green light presentation I make, people make comments to me. You know, I've heard of this thing called bus rapid transit. You should take a look at that, Brad. Or, you shouldn't look at it. That's going to be a problem. We really need more light rail or whatever. There's a question about whether dedicated lanes would be better in some areas, or mixed traffic. Again, that will be up to the future planning and design for each corridor. Each corridor will have its own set of issues to deal with that. Some corridors, it certainly doesn't make any sense. There's no room to add a dedicated lane. There's it's very difficult to enforce a dedicated lane anyway. Bus rapid transit has evolved over the years. It started back in 1974 in Brazil and has moved on since then. Brazil is the sort of the granddaddy of all bus rapid transit. 1974, they implemented a whole system in Curitiba, Brazil, and now they are building a subway there. It's been so successful, they're building a rail line, and they're converting the BRT line into a pedestrian walkway there. In Kansas City, they have a well-known bus rapid transit line. This is a photo that I took a couple weeks ago when I was out there for an APTA conference myself of the BRT line. It was Kansas City had 6 referendums, 6 sales tax referendums that failed for a rail system for Kansas City over the years. Many that had been supported by the Kansas City Chamber of Commerce and the elected leaders, et cetera, and it kept failing. The Transit Authority identified back in, was it 2005, 4? They didn't have any kind of premium transit to show the customers and the citizens of Kansas City that transit could be something more than the regular bus. And so they launched this bus rapid transit. Now they have 2 BRT lines that are very successful. And sure enough, once they launched that, it was successful. In 2008, the sales tax passed, even though the chamber and the city actually opposed it at the time. It passed. And now they're turning the first BRT line into a rail line in Kansas City. We've had a lot of discussions over the years about Cleveland. Cleveland has the most expensive bus rapid transit line instituted in the United States along their Euclid Avenue corridor. They have a series of rail systems in Cleveland, and then they have this one fabulous bus rapid transit line that goes on the corridor that I show on my map. And they have done study after study because they have worked very hard. They spent $300 million to make it as rail-like as possible and to work incredibly hard at getting development to occur around it. It had been very difficult. It has been very difficult to identify that development occurs around bus rapid transit stations, even on the other ones I just explained in Kansas City and Eugene and other places. It has not happened in the United States because the rubber-tired vehicles can be moved.
Right.
If you don't invest in the infrastructure, it can be moved, and developers are hesitant to develop around it. Well, when you spend $300 million, it does appear as if there is development concentrating around the Euclid Avenue corridor in Cleveland. And when I was talking to the general manager of Cleveland just at the Kansas City conference, he said what's interesting is Cleveland had rail since the 1920s, or they've always had rail. And development has or hasn't occurred around it. That hasn't been really a factor. They got developers interested in this bus rapid transit corridor. Now those same developers are saying, hey, this actually works. And they're now developing around their rail stations for the first time in Cleveland. I think the best model for what Greenlight is trying to do is not necessarily Cleveland, where it's a one corridor system. We're looking at a network, as we've been talking about all along with the Greenlight Pinellas plan. And probably the best example of that in a larger scale is LA, Los Angeles. My thing does not seem to work. Yeah. This is the rail map of Los Angeles. They have multiple lines. They've had multiple successful referendums over time to fund their growing rail system. And then layered over top of the rail system is a full network of bus rapid transit lines across all of LA. It's a much bigger area than Pinellas County, but they have many, many different lines shown in red. As you can see, operate like a grid. In some areas, they have their own dedicated lane. Most areas, they do not. They do have signal preemption in most of their corridors. They have unique vehicles, like the one I showed. That's in LA. And again, that's a premium level service that has seen huge ridership increases over the regular bus lines in LA. But the idea is it is designed as a network. It all works together, just like the Greenlight Pinellas plan. So that's sort of my presentation. Again, the Greenlight Pinellas plan all works together. I think, when we go out there in the community and talk about Greenlight Pinellas, we don't necessarily get down into the details too much, and people don't ask that question so much. But it's important from time to time to talk about some of the details and make sure folks understand that we have a good plan put before the voters about a network that will all work together. This is my BRT presentation. I'm going to make a even better rail presentation sometime soon. And we're going to work on the trolley program and all these other programs. All of these have been worked out in some detail, and try to get that message out in an easy to understand way.
Brad, well done.
Mr.
Any
Chair?
questions or comments? Commissioner Long?
Yes, Brad, thank you for that excellent presentation. You have to say the students, even though they were in attack mode, were very respectful.
They were.
My question to you is, given this presentation that you've just made, how flexible do you think the system could be a few years from now, given some major changes that may be happening in our county with development and/or initiatives to bring thousands and thousands of people to Pinellas County? And specifically, my concern is, in looking at this overall map of the county, you've just identified a really excellent route for getting people from downtown St. Pete over to St. Pete Beach. But what if you have an interest in moving from for Tampa International out to the middle of our county, just hypothetically to Madeira Beach? What route would you be able to take then? Is there anything that, because we've got the South County and the North County pretty well figured out, but how do you cut through that congestion of traffic on 102nd, 118th, or Bryan-Dairy, whatever you want to refer to that corridor as, and/or Ulmerton Road? I mean, that is just, you're moving at a snail's pace most of the time.
Yeah.
And do we have any plan to have a connection that comes right across from 275 out to the beach in that middle part of the county?
Yes, well, I mean, one of the rapid lines is along Ulmerton Road, right out to the beach. Now you talked about Madeira Beach. That would probably, if I were going to do that from the airport, I would probably take the rapid line to downtown St. Pete, the rapid line out to probably St. Pete Beach, and then the wherever my hotel was, catch a improved trolley. I mean, that'll be double the frequency of what it is today. You know, but as far as flexibility goes, I mean, certainly we can. It's designed to be flexible, to look at where the demand is. If the demand for the airport service is from beach hotels, then obviously it doesn't make sense for have to make transfers and to have the single ride, and we can do that. I think it's a question about Ulmerton Road, whether that's going to be the development or is it really more Bryan-Dairy, exactly in the middle part of the county, how that works. That's probably still open, but the general idea is to try to show folks a concept of how the rapid lines work in concert with the other lines and the rail, and it all tries to work together as a network. And then over all of that, the MPO and the PPC, that's what they're working on, is to work on the future developed land use so that it ties to where the corridors are. So, you know, once they sort of adopt their plans on that, we will be somewhat hesitant to move the corridor entirely, because that's, you know, if the county and everybody is working toward developing a corridor, we want to provide the service to meet that development.
Right, and I understand that. As a follow-up, Mr. Chair, please, just keep in mind that some of the concerns I hear from the beach communities is the lack of understanding that they have with regard to how the traffic moves out to them, or how they can get from the beach over to wherever they want to go throughout the middle part of our county.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just repeating what has been discussed with me since the last time we met.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Long. Those are great points. And as a follow-up to that, whether it's the beach communities or for the Seminole, Missouri Boulevard, the cities of Largo and Clearwater and Seminole, what's the entry point for the local governments into the process? I know that we worked with St. Pete for a while on Central Avenue, but is it through their membership on PSTA and MPO, or is there a separate outreach to those cities along the route to make sure you have their input?
There's the Big C.
Well, we have over the last 2 years definitely tried to tie in and create avenues where the planning staffs of the different cities have had direct input in their, first on the station stops for the rail, but then now tied in with the PPC planning effort. To have mostly the planning departments of the different cities are definitely tied in to these bus rapid transit corridors as well.
Well, perhaps as Commissioner Dighton said, as we move forward with this, we make a definite outreach to the Big C and to other cities that aren't as well represented on PPC and MPO and those organizations to make sure we've got their input as well. Because that is a question we get all the time. How are folks going to get out to the beaches? The other question I had is traffic signal preemption and signal timing extension. Is that still a tool that we plan to utilize?
Yes.
And who has jurisdiction over that? You know, we're multi-jurisdictional even in road names. So who gets to say whether we're going to extend the time on this specific traffic light?
County.
Well,
no. We've had some preliminary discussions, not detailed discussions on that, but most of the rapid lines are not on county roads. They're on state roads, so the Florida DOT, in many cases, St. Pete, it's part city, part state, part county, along that stretch between downtown and the beach. And so it depends. Again, what we're talking about is not signal preemption, but signal priority. So extending the green to allow the vehicle to go through, which has a ancillary benefit of allowing the trailing cars to go through faster too.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Well done, Brad. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, before you get off,
Newton.
last night we had a flyer that we had at the Central meeting when we did that. Did they present that? Yes. So you did present that? That was the first time I saw it. I didn't know if you were going to put that in your presentation or not. The little flyer, the little handout that we have for Green Light.
Oh, yeah, well, we have those at all of our, with the map and everything on that? Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to item 6C, which is a follow-up, I think, on an issue Commissioner Scott brought up on PST's overcrowding issue, and Mr. Bradford has a follow-up on that.
I got it. Better than I thought I was. So first, let me just say, I hope things have cooled down a bit. Thank you to our Director of Maintenance, Henry Lacastic. So we did notice the queues. We noticed it was a little bit warm up there. My apologies for that earlier. I saw our Superintendent of Facilities coming in, so we cranked it up full speed. So hopefully you're feeling the cooler effects. Good morning to you all. James Bradford, Chief Operating Officer. This morning I'm actually going to co-present with our Director of Transportation, Jeff Thompson. And so we'd love to be able to bring topics like this to you, and hopefully I'll be able to do more in the future. This morning's topic, we're going to talk about overcrowding mitigation and some of our plans in the near future, really, to improve our operations. So often during the PSTA board meetings, certainly we have an opportunity to listen to our citizens and our customer base. And you know, we hear a lot of different concerns, and a lot of the common themes we hear is anybody watching during the day? You know, if the buses bunch up, if it appears like there's two 52s running back to back, or if there's a bus in trouble and I'm waiting at my stop for an hour or two, did anybody notice? Did anybody back at base really know that? And are they taking note? It's overcrowded in my bus. There's road construction on US 19. What is PSTA doing? And staff, we attend the monthly meetings, and we certainly hear it, and we do take notes. And I would love to assure everyone we do watch. We do watch the system very closely, and it's a system and a service that we really have to manage every hour, every minute, every second of the day, because it changes. It absolutely changes, whether it's weather, whether it's spring break coming up, concerts. Believe it or not, we've seen weddings that have shut down entire blocks, parades, you name it. It's a constant challenge to really make sure that we're getting the service that we promise out there to the public. You hear of trucks overturning, hitting bridges, and then we act. The transportation supervisors, they go into full effect. We come up with detours, and then the challenge is to make sure we inform the riding public of what's going to happen so they're just not out there wondering. I think the biggest responsibility I put on myself and my staff is to make sure people have faith in us, make sure that they at least have faith that we're doing something and not nothing. So PSTA operations, we run a tight ship, absolutely. There's 3 run bids every year. Sue and her team, they work miracles with scheduling, as Mr. Miller mentioned today. Since 2008, we've actually cut service, but continue to increase ridership. During the weekday, we have 40,000 rides on our entire system, and that's brought down slightly a little bit when you average in the weekends. So to coincide with our run bids, we do try to tweak the service as much as we can. Now, what you would like to in the middle of a budget year is be able to take the comments from the public, our frontline employees, and really make huge, drastic, major changes if you can. But it's very tight during a budget year. Some of those changes can cost tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. I credit Sue and her team and Charlie Thomas, who's sitting back there, who will take over for Sue Lanham upon her last week. They are very good at making cost-neutral tweaks to the service that go into effect with the next run bid. So whether it's removing stops that have low ridership to ease the momentum and the running time of routes, to try to put in extra trips if possible. They do a very good job, and it's a hard challenge to try to add trips and try to really make those cost-neutral tweaks. So how do we find out what's going on? How do we kind of stay informed and then give that faith back to the riding public? Certainly our supervisors and operators, they're our frontline employees, they're our eyes and ears. We have 23 transportation supervisors. At any given time, we have 8 to 10 of those road supervisors scheduled throughout the day. They are on the road. They report back to us what's working, what needs a detour, what buses are falling behind, and then they are charged with putting the buses back on service, as Jeff will speak to you more about. Operators, who better than them? Our frontline employees, they're driving the routes. They often come to us as the charge is actually led by our union president, Oki O'Hara, who's actually sitting back there, of the Tampa Bay Area Workers Transit Union. We engage with them often to find out what's working. If I'm a driver of the 19 or the 52, I will come back and I will say, James Bradford, Sue Lanham, what's going on? We need a little bit of help with our routes. Here's what we're seeing. We're hard pressed to make connections for people at certain times. So we do listen and we do what we can. And of course, our customers, they're our greatest source of feedback, which really drives our decision making. I'll give you some examples of that. So I am pleased to announce, as soon as this June, so far, and after we've done the budget review with our finance department, we do believe we'll realize a bit of savings in this FY14, and we'd love to add that back into the service so that the public sees that. So service improvements coming up in June. We've talked a lot about Route 52. The Route 52 is a large route. For a one-seat ride, I could hop on in downtown St. Pete, and if I wanted to, I could ride it all the way into downtown Clearwater. And of course, there's a ton and a lot of stops in between. It would take me nearly 2 hours to do that. Route 52 is a very busy route. It is one of our top routes in terms of routes with 30-minute frequencies. It's in the top 3 for passengers per revenue hour. It serves roughly about hovering about 4,200 rides per day. And so we're going to add trips to that. We will propose to add, right now it has 75 trips during the day. And we're going to propose to add 10 more trips to that in June to increase the frequency in the morning and the late afternoon. And how that breaks down is it would be 6 trips in the morning, 3 trips leaving out of Clearwater and out of St. Pete, 2 trips in the afternoon, and 2 additional trips in the late afternoon. And so you'll have 15-minute frequency in the early morning and the late afternoon, and of course an average of 20 to 25-minute frequency during the remainder of the day. And looking ahead, one of the things this chart shows you, as you can see, our ridership, especially on that Route 52, it does hover just over 4,200 rides during the day. After the summer and after kind of the relaxed state is over, folks get back to work, they get back to school, and we notice, and especially in our last 2 years here, that around the fall time, the ridership spikes. It goes up, and when that happens, so does the customer complaints, or as I say, the customer concerns that we get. We average maybe, I'd say, 200 to 300 customer concerns a month that the customer service department fields, and of those, we see about 35 to 45 customer comments specifically on the Route 52 alone, anywhere from overcrowding to challenges running the bus. So those were some of the trips that I think we proposed to really kind of help that route along. It would run 40-plus trips leaving from Clearwater and St. Pete each day. Route 30, now that is it's almost like a little shopping circular. The Route 30, again, this came from the customers, and we listened. People emailed, people called. What was happening were folks who were leaving the Northeast Shopping Center struggled to make a Route 52 connection on 49th Street and 30th Ave. So we have pushed the time back on that to 6:35. It was departing at 6:40. We pushed it back 5 minutes to help the folks be able to get to that Route 52. And that one goes from the Northeast Shopping Center right there off of 4th Street, in between 4th Street and 1st Street, that Publix, Chichio's, a lot of those shops around there, over the Tyrone Mall. And again, that was a case of folks calling in saying, look, what can you do to help? What can you do to help us make this connection? It's important. And so those are one of the changes that take effect. Route 78, another one of those, I call them kind of shopping circulars, up in North County, leaving the Park Street Terminal, head over to the Countryside Boulevard area in the Westfield Shopping Center. So what happened here, this was unique, and I actually got a phone call and emails directly about this route. Back in late October, early November, we had to detour off of Betty Lane up in that area due to some construction. So what we ended up doing was going down Kings Highway in between, I believe, Union Street and Sunset Ave, I believe. And what we found is we were actually picking up people a lot better. The folks who were riding this bus, now we were going directly in front of them. Granada Apartments, Lenox Court, a lot of condos in that area. And folks called up and they said, hey, listen, this is better. We know you're on a detour, but this is better for us. We're actually able to access your bus a lot better. So we listened. Folks asked to make a permanent change, and come June, that will be permanent. It will be on the schedule for the Route 78. So just some examples of what we're able to do, if we're able to do it, and it's cost neutral, or we'll bring it before Brad Miller, and we'll look at the the surface adjustment together. But we do listen, and we do try to get a feedback, and we do try to turn it into results. One of the things, and I'll let Jeff Thompson talk about a little bit more what we're proud to do, is propose to you a deployment of buses at remote locations, and talk to you a little bit behind the scenes of how we plug a trip, how standby buses work, and then what we could do to make that better, and kind of having buses at remote locations ready to go at a moment's notice throughout the county, strategically placed by Jeff's staff. Additional standby operators in the FY budget, FY15 budget, which we'd also try and test out this coming June. And then the one other thing is we would consider a schedule during the peak season, certainly during spring break time, when we know every spring break that we're going to put out extra buses, extra trips, extra trolleys to help the passengers out there and to keep the traffic flow. We are challenged by the congestion of the traffic. It is very hard to try to stay on schedule, but we would propose to publish a schedule for that brief period of time in March and April. And that way, folks know, we know another bus is on their way, but if I'm at the stop and I believe I've missed my bus, I don't know that PSTA has sent out an extra tripper bus or another trolley. So we think this would give our customer base a lot more faith and knowing that there's another vehicle on their way. So that's one of the things we would look to do as well. And without further ado, I will turn it over.
James, let me ask you a question. Thank you for the presentation.
Sure.
I understand the Finance Committee has that, but the rest of us don't have that PowerPoint.
Oh, okay.
Can we get that emailed to us?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
And are you saying all of these changes are funded within the current year budget?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so everything we saw on that list, you plan to move forward within June?
Yes. Plan to move forward with the next run operators bid, which I believe is Sunday, June 8th.
Okay.
And probably some of the bigger changes, which we'll see ahead, which will take a little bit of money, was adding trips and additional buses to the Route 52. The Route 30 and the Route 78, those were easy enough to really make those changes and fairly cost neutral. So I will turn it over.
You got a second part of the presentation coming up?
Yes.
Okay. You want to ask now?
We're going to.
Yeah, it's
okay,
on
I have
the
a question
first
before
part.
that.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just on the detour of Route 78, where was it being detoured from?
So it was going down Betty Lane, I believe.
And it's now.
And right now it's going down Kings Highway in between Union Street and Sunset Ave.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Thank you, Commissioner.
And that's really helping out those folks very much. And we actually gotten emails, people thanking us for making that change permanent.
Okay.
Thank you, James. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I want to, first of all, give you a little bit of insight as to what we do when we realize and understand that we have an issue on the road with a bus, either being overcrowded or running behind schedule on a regular basis for whatever reason. We deploy what is called a tripper bus or a plug bus. Now, a tripper bus is an unscheduled bus trip that doesn't necessarily appear on the schedule, but it's there for the point of filling in areas of service which are in need due to factors such as overloads, detours, vehicle breakdowns, bus mechanical failures, or things like that. Trippers provide relief for the waiting customers that are waiting for the bus that is broken down for some reason, and other buses along the route to help restore the scheduled services on-time performance. Our number one goal here at PSTA is to run every trip as it's printed on every schedule every day. That's what we strive to do. We want people to be able to depend on the bus schedule that we put out there to the public, and this helps that. So for the reasons such as mechanical failures and incidents, or perhaps an unusually high traffic delay, a bus may be delayed, so we would run a tripper service in an attempt to aid the recovery and restore the scheduled service to the on-time performance. And we go through some steps to deploy the trippers. The first thing we do is have to become aware of the service interruption. And our bus operators and our road supervisors mentioned here on this list certainly are the eyes and ears of our on-the-street operation. We may find out of a service interruption through that avenue, also through outside entities such as the Florida Department of Transportation, police, etc. Our customer service reps certainly provide us a lot of information with regards to what may be a delay or an interruption. And as you see here in the picture on the slide, Lloyd Jernigan, our transportation supervisor, is monitoring our CleverCAD real-time bus information system. You'll see there that we've got two of those stations up in our radio control center. He's operating one of the stations, and it's broken down by different sides of the county. That's how we operate at the north side and the south side. So by using that information there that we get, we can monitor all of our buses in live time, so that they tell us when they're running late and when they're running on time, or when they're even running ahead of schedule. So it's very important for us to be able to figure out what to do with the trippers with that tool that we have. So the staff determines if a tripper is needed, and there are some steps that are, and decisions that are made very quickly with regards to where to start the tripper. Do we need to run the full or the partial route? Do we need to consider the deadhead distance in time? Now, a deadhead, the term deadhead is not a Grateful Dead reference, but it is a period of time that the bus runs to get to where it needs to go to start service.
You realize how much you've aged all of us with that statement?
For example, if we were running from here to Gateway Mall to start the southbound Route 4 because it had stopped there for some reason, it would be 20 minutes of deadhead travel time to that. Then do we want to start ahead or behind the scheduled bus? A lot of that depends, too, on the frequency of the schedule. If the bus behind it is going to catch up to it so quickly that we can't get there before it, then it will take over for that bus, and we will try to catch it ahead of itself, if you follow me. So in our dispatch office upstairs, we deploy standby operators. Now, our standby operators, ladies and gentlemen, are here primarily to cover for unexpected absences. However, throughout the day, we do have standby operators that remain to run tripper service for us also. So And we also have the luxury of operators who have completed their work assignment and they're returning to the garage. For example, we have the 66 that terminates at 8 a.m. in the morning at Park Street and comes back to the garage. If we need that vehicle to fill in on something along the way, we call that operator and ask that operator if they'd fill in and cover the schedule also. So there are many different ways to run a tripper, and that's a few of them for you this morning. We're very concerned about the public perception. We've gotten some comments that say, hey, why do we want to give you more if you can't operate what you've got already efficiently? And we take those very seriously. We want the public to see us using their funds in a good economical way, in a way that shows that we know what we're doing. But sometimes the public sees buses bunching up. They may see 359s running eastbound between Keene Road and US 19. Not good. They may also see back-to-back buses, in some cases empty. It's also not good. And they may see tripper buses going into service and passing by waiting passengers. Well, those things are things that we don't want the public to see. Those are things that we want to eliminate by being able to improve our tripper effectiveness. So we determine the patterns that we have for late schedules or for overcrowded buses. And our operators are trained and are aware to communicate through the voice-to-voice radio system with our radio control center regarding any overcrowding issues or any issues where they have to pass people up because the bus is too crowded. We had a bus workshop in May with the customer service department and our transportation supervisors regarding the issues and the different concerns that they have, and so that we all know now and are on the same page with regards to what has to happen to fulfill the complaint, to make sure that the customer knows that we're on the way, to communicate back and forth with our different departments easily so that we don't have any confusion and so that we can work together to alleviate this problem. And those workshops are going to continue. They're very enlightening. And the remote buses came from that workshop. The redesign and increase of standbys throughout the afternoon is something that we're looking at very seriously. And the stage buses in the remote locations is a very important thing that we're going to start piloting June 8th. What that is 2 buses in the morning, 2 buses in the afternoon are going to be out on the street ready to go. My ideal situation with that is that if a bus breaks down at Missouri and Ulmerton and it has to stop there for some reason and it's got a coolant leak, okay, we can't run it any further at that point. We have to stop. Well, I already have a bus out there ready to go. So we're cutting down that time. That bus is sitting there on the side of the road. So my protection bus drives immediately over to Missouri and Ulmerton, gives that bus to that operator, and takes off down the street with the customers in half or a third of the time that it would take now. And then that operator would stay there with the bus until the shop got there and we got it repaired, and that would be our standby bus after it was repaired. So just to give you a little insight on that. So we review all of our routes and services and try to evaluate the effectiveness of each one. We want to pay special attention to the routes that have the large quantity of customers and the passenger complaints and concerns accompanying those on-time performance issues. And the on-street protection buses, which I mentioned earlier, will have 2 buses positioned, ready to go to deploy as trippers if needed. So in review, I just want to make sure that you are aware, our Route 30, we're going to improve the on-street transfers June 8th. The Route 78, we're going to continue routing the route as it is running now on the detour along Betty Lane. We're going to improve some running times for the Route 52 in the morning and the afternoon, which should help with that overcrowding on some routes. And that is it for June for right now. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to try and entertain them.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. We appreciate it. Commissioner Mertz?
Yeah, thank you very much. Excellent presentation. Just a general question. Earlier today, we discussed several $1 million in overtime extras. Is some of that accounted for in the need for the trippers where they have to double, or where there's 2 separate?
It's accounted for. It shows up in our overtime. If, for example, we would use a plug bus, or excuse me, one that's coming back to the garage to do a little extra. But it's all encompassed within the budget, the staged buses. So
Okay.
it wouldn't.
I can
don't
see
see.
where
I don't see
they're-
it leading to any overtime. No.
No. Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Rice.
Yes. In terms of better customer service, if I'm at a bus stop on one of the busy routes and I use my smartphone to type in my bus stop number,
Yes.
and the first bus that comes by can't take me because it's filled, is there some way to communicate to me through that system to let me know that a tripper bus would be on the way so that I could anticipate a second bus that would be coming behind it?
The tripper bus will not show up on the real-time information system. It runs off the regular schedule and real time of what the regular scheduled buses are running. A tripper bus will not alert you to that. However, the bus operator would. The bus operator would be able to tell you that somebody's coming behind him. So
that bus
if
would
the
actually
bus-
stop
the bus
and
wouldn't-
say, I can't take you, but the bus behind me will.
Yes, exactly. The bus operator would not drive by a customer and just wave to him, hi, how are you today? Boom, go by. They would be instructed to, or reminded to stop and say, hey, this bus is full, there's somebody coming behind me to get you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner Rice. Commissioner Newton.
Yes, the standby, how does that work? Is that time and a half?
No, sir. It's not time and a half. A standby runs off our extra board. We have several of them a day that come in for that specific assignment. So they're in an extra board position, and they rotate on the extra board. They may get a piece of work covering a couple runs during the day, or they may get a standby for the day.
But if they're at their hours, they only get overtime when they actually get on the bus and go out and do a route or a run.
They may, yes, they can't drive over 12 hours a day, and they can't be on duty more than 16 hours a day. So there may run in, the standby operators do, on most occasions, work overtime as they're filling in for people later in the afternoon.
Okay. Yeah, we do say when I was working with Xerox, we had standby, but we got like a quarter of the hour pay.
Mm-hmm.
And then we really didn't get paid unless they actually called us out, but they had that flexibility to use it if they needed it, but it wasn't time and a half.
Yeah, well,
until you got out, if you actually went out and was working, then you got your.
Yeah, we require them to be here, report at a specific time. They have a specific time frame of work. If something happens within that time frame, they take it. If it doesn't, they're dismissed.
What about logistics? What about if you got those people already having a bus on that route, just parked at a mall or somewhere on that route? Wouldn't that cut down on the time to come from here and get way out there? Or
Yes,
is
it
about
would.
The same?
Yes, it would cut down on that. I didn't quite, could you rephrase the question for me?
My question was, what about logistics? What about, if you got the people already in their standby, would it not be quicker to have a bus on that route, like at a mall maybe, and they called it out? I mean, it's quicker to respond than coming way out here and then having to go way over there, or how does that work?
Well, the logistics of it is, I've got some spots in mind that I'm gonna start, that I'm gonna have these buses have to start.
Oh, okay.
And I've got to kind of see, and it varies from day to day. Things happen in different areas of the county, as was mentioned early by James, or maybe it was Mr. Miller this morning mentioned that things break down in odd places. We have to go up to Tarpon Springs for something. So that takes us 30, 40 minutes, depending on the time of day, from here to get up there. Now, it's going to take us 15 minutes if we're at Park Street or if we're up at,
Back.
Right. Yeah, it takes a long time, and as the day goes on, the traffic gets worse, especially in the afternoon going up that direction.
That's another. I kind of giggled when I heard Brad talk about Express BRT and Almerton Road in the same phrase.
Well, we'd be in the outside. We'd be in the outside lane.
That's going to run in the curve area. I'm not going to get by all that traffic.
Thank you, Commissioner Newton. Let me ask you, what's the rate of failure? How often is a bus out of service? Do we have a statistic on that?
Yes, we run probably about 3 or 4 trippers a week. According to our stats that are published in your packet there, in a broad sense, I can give you a big number. The big number of miles per road call is 8725. Our total revenue miles is 738,260 for the month. So we average, I'm going to say maybe 5 road calls a day. Five a day. I'm talking about road calls. A road call is where we go out and exchange a bus for some reason. The air conditioning doesn't work. One of the
in your statistics,
every month we report something called miles per service interruption. So how many miles between every time across the whole system that there's some kind of problem that requires the service to be interrupted. Sometimes that involves a road call, another bus, sometimes it doesn't. But
It's for
we
any reason.
track it, and so it's getting better, at least right now, up 22% this month. Every 12,500 miles of service, there's
a call.
Yes.
So in other terms, though, I'm just trying to get to daily, how many buses have to be replaced while they're in service?
The average is about 5.
About 5 a
Yeah,
day, and
the-
that's
the
out
super-
of how many are on the road every day?
We have 163 at pullout, so we're 163, going to 165 in June.
And that includes trolleys, everything?
That's trolleys, connector vehicles, regular buses, MCIs.
Do the trolleys and connectors have noticeably different failure rates versus regular buses?
Yes.
More or less?
It's less on the connectors and the trolleys than it is on the regular bus. Of course, we have more of the regular buses.
Right.
So that would be why.
Okay.
Yes.
Other questions or comments? Commissioner Diamond.
I thought that was a very interesting presentation. The statistic that I'm always interested in our packet is the on-time performance statistic, and I guess this issue of trippers is related to that, and I just wanted to make a comment that it looks like now our on-time performance is about 82%, and there are various ways to read what to make of that number. From what I can tell, it looks like the high mark of our on-time performance was in October of 2013, at least by this chart I'm looking at, which was close to 90%. So it sounds to me like the trippers would be a tool to help us try to get back up toward that number. Is that?
That's correct.
Correct?
Yes.
You know, just an interesting, you brought that up too. With that, and actually, that's actually a pretty solid number. You figure we have 5,200 bus stops in the system. And I was just talking to our scheduling department this morning. Monthly, we have over 180,000 time points that the buses pass by. And so that's a mark of 82% on-time performance. The window of time for that is 2 minutes early and 5 minutes late that the bus actually needs to pass by that passenger bus stop in order to hit that mark. And you'll notice systems that go to real time, have ABL and Next Bus technology. You'll notice that's usually where the number will hover around. Before, I think back in the days where you just had a supervisor go and do a time check at the end of the line, now your numbers were hovering up over in the 90%. But that really wasn't a great snapshot of what buses were doing in between the end of the line as they pass other bus stops, all the bus stops in between the end of the line. So for us, and actually I even think it was, I know it came down from 90%, but I know we were having trouble with our CAD system, our AVL system, where we weren't actually registering all the time points. And so maybe we were doing a sampling, maybe 60, 70,000 time points. So now that we have our system back up running full speed, doing about 180,000 time points a month, now that's usually where to hover, in the mid-80s. Yeah.
Well, I think it's great that you measure and track those numbers. So, thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Diamond. Any other questions or comments on this item? Thank you, gentlemen. We'll move to 6D, PSTA Regional Services Funding.
This is an informational item that I will not provide you with yet another PowerPoint, but I do want to highlight two things about this. One is we now have a Transit Riders Advisory Committee called TRAC that is full of 13 designated riders, dedicated riders of the system. I see one of them in the audience. Miss Vivian Peters is on that committee. And they have been meeting now for 3 months, and they are really getting going. They now review the PSTA board packet that you review, essentially, or not every item, but items that affect the riders. And they vote whether or not to recommend things. So you'll see on your packet, like on this one, a little square that says track. That means that they voted to support it or reviewed it. And They are full of comments. Believe me, they on this one. This informational item is related to the services that we run over to and from Tampa. We're on three express routes to and from Tampa. PSTA runs 2 of them, and Hart runs 1 of them across the Gandy, I-275, and Courtney Campbell bridges. And some of the track riders ride those and certainly provided comments. The issue that we presented was that Hart is proposing to discontinue the service across the Courtney Campbell Bridge to Clearwater that goes to and from, actually not discontinue it, but move it from serving Clearwater to serving Pasco County instead on Bruce B. Downs. I'm not sure when, coming up probably this summer. All of the services that PSTA provides and that Hart provides are actually funded by the Florida DOT. They're not funded by the PSTA. We get a grant that pays essentially the full cost net of fares to run the 2 routes we run, and Hart gets a similar grant to fund the route to Clearwater. And so what Hart is doing is they've asked the DOT to approve of them, instead of running it to Clearwater, to run it up Bruce B. Downs Boulevard up to Wesley Chapel area in Pasco County. And I got very concerned about this and said, that, hey, they can't do that. Pinellas is better than Pasco. And
be nice.
Their response back to me was, well, Brad, then you, according to the Green Light Plan, are also proposing to make changes with your routes, and you want us to keep funding those. We're proposing to move the Gandy Bridge 100X to instead serve the same locations in Pinellas County, the Caroline Gateway area, and now newly downtown St. Petersburg, will go across the Howard Franklin Bridge and have a stop in West Shore, and ultimately service the airport and tie into the West Shore Multimodal Center and the managed lanes, etc. So we've applied to do that change following Green Light. So the short of it is, in the short term, it looks like the FDOT is going to agree to let Hart try out the Pasco option instead of Pinellas. And so PSTA has put in an application to FDOT to fund seed money, essentially, for our bus rapid transit line that I talked about, that goes from the beach on Clearwater Beach down Gulf to Bay, across the Courtney Campbell to the airport and to downtown Tampa. And we've said, well, if you're going to diss us on the Pasco thing, then you better support this new service. So we'll see about that. Longer term, I thought it was interesting, Commissioner Diamond down there, he is also the chairman of the St. Pete Chamber Transportation Committee. And yesterday there was a discussion by the FDOT district secretary came to the chamber and talked about general highway and transit and all sorts of transportation funding, and how he was sort of really emphasizing, I would say, to the chamber that the region needed to work better together in order to help him be competitive in getting our fair share or an increased share of the $10 billion a year state DOT budget to come to the Tampa Bay area. Same thing applies on the transit side. He was mostly talking about, I think, highways, but it's really all transportation funding. All these services are provided by FDOT, and they're limited, and they're allocated across the state. If we work closer and more systematically, I believe, over time, we will arm our district secretary to be better able to get a greater share of the statewide pot of funds that will help all of our services. So there can be Pasco routes and Pinellas routes funded by the DOT. There's this new committee that the DOT is working on called RTIES, yet another transportation acronym, but it, along with this thing called the TMA, Transportation Management
area, which is the three MPOs, Pasco, Pinellas, and Hillsborough MPOs working together to prioritize systems, prioritize projects. Prioritizing transit projects as well will help in the future. So I think, you know, that I think we'll be very successful since we have very good ridership on our routes, and we can be competitive, and that will help us into the future. But, you know, I thought it was interesting that the secretary was there sort of somewhat scolding us about working better and together, and that's the key to increasing the overall share.
Thank you, Brad. Any questions or comments on that? So the 200X is going away. Do we know when?
No. We're still trying to figure that out.
And the plan is to replace that with BRT connecting Clearwater to Tampa via the same route?
Yes.
Okay. Any comments?
Would it go all the way into downtown Tampa, or would it have a initial stop in the West Shore area?
We're hopeful that the service development grant will perhaps allow us to launch this either right after green light vote in 2014, still in late 2014, or maybe even before if they approve it. Without the green light funding, it would service downtown Tampa. It would serve the existing customer base with a stop in West Shore, perhaps at the airport or perhaps a connection to the airport. Post green light, we have separate routes, one to the airport and one to downtown.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Brad. Let's move on to reports and correspondence, 7A.
I want to highlight two invitations that I'm going to be sending out to all of you about additional events out in the community that you might be interested in, but stay tuned to your email getting an invite to these. This Thursday evening, I think, Janet, do you know if it's at 6 o'clock?
Yes, tomorrow.
Tomorrow night, 5:30 to 7:30. PSTA is co-sponsoring the 2020 Plan Founders and Leaders 7th Anniversary Celebration at the historic Manhattan Casino on 22nd Street in St. Pete, as we heard from today.
The bus stop there.
Right.
In beautiful District 7.
So the 2020 Task Force is a group down in St. Petersburg that is working, it's really a coalition of groups working to reduce poverty, and they have, PSTA has joined their coalition, and certainly the Green Light Pinellas initiative is all about helping that out. And so we, along with the city of St. Petersburg, and I'm not sure who else, are helping to sponsor this event that they're having. So if you're in St. Petersburg tomorrow night, please join us. Second event is on Thursday, June 5th. I don't know the time. Do you know the time? Okay. We'll send an invite out. This is a ribbon cutting that we're having at the apartment complex along this new route up in northern Pinellas County on the change on the Route 78 to, what are the name of the apartments? Granada Apartments, Lennox Court. Those are actually, I guess, in Clearwater, but on the north side of Clearwater near Dunedin.
What time is that going to be?
Just south of Union.
10 a.m. Yeah.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay.
Oh, you know what? Just so you know, that's the same time as the Dunedin High School graduation. So.
I graduate every year. We only cut ribbons once.
Yeah. I will not be missing my alumni graduation ceremony.
We were doing so well. Commissioner Newton.
Friday we unveiled the Mediterranean new bus stop out at VA. I know Brad was chatting about that, but it is a work of art. You get a chance, go by there. I was thinking about moving in. You know, they got the lights are solar powered. We took a bunch of pictures and posted a lot of stuff up on Facebook, but it's beautiful. It matches the facade of the
VA and the apartments and all that.
right, and also the Walmart back. And I think they said July 17th they got a huge opening for that facility in Seminole. So that's going to be something. You know, But it is beautiful.
Thank you, Commissioner Newton. Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you. On page 99, there's a reference under Maintenance Department to a fleet image improvement project. And I was just kind of wondering what that was.
You're gonna wash the buses.
Oh, God.
Hey. Clean buses.
We have clarity coming.
Very, very last line. Looks like we're going to get some help.
All right.
Sir.
Good morning. Good question. What that is on the rear of our buses, over time, the PSTA logo has faded off. So we have gone back and started cleaning up that side of the panel, putting on fresh new logos. We're also going through each of the buses, touching up any dents, scratches, missing paint, what have you. So just making sure the buses look as new as they possibly can, as old as they are getting. So that's what that means.
My compliments, Mr. Miller. I think that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
I would note that Henry gets the award for most impressive staff budget presentation ever. He came with a full-blown PowerPoint of paint scratches and lug nuts and stuff to the internal meeting to pitch for his stuff.
But he's seen, you know what, Brad, he's seen all of your PowerPoints. He knew exactly how to get to a man's heart. Another PowerPoint. Smart man. Smart man. I would have done the same thing.
I can't follow that.
What are you trying to say? We like colors and shapes and stuff?
No, to him, that one.
Let's move on to other business. I think we've already done that. Any other business? Okay, board member comments. Commissioner Maroney.
Thank you. Just real quick, on the top page of our agenda package, it says that the next meeting is June 23rd. I think that's supposed to be June 25th.
Okay.
Okay, because that's a Monday is the 23rd. And also, our legislative committee meets at 9:30 now. That's also shows 9 a.m. And I want to make sure that people don't
yes,
get there.
and I believe we are proposing to not have a June legislative committee meeting.
Okay.
No, bummer.
Chairman?
Yes, that was cleared by me. Yeah.
Okay, by you?
Okay. So it is June 25th.
Sorry.
Yeah.
One less meeting.
Sorry, Ben.
June 25th, yes.
For the regular meeting.
Okay.
Good catch.
And then no
Commissioner.
legislative committee.
And no legislative committee.
Great presentations today.
Thank you, sir.
All of them.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say I was pleased to see that there was a fair amount of continued community outreach that was presented in one of your presentations today, specifically with some of the college interns. I think that's an excellent way, of course, to get people involved that are interested to be able to work in this area. I would want to mention one thing. There is a Pinellas County program called the Executive Internship Program. I don't know if PSTA has had any members from it, but it's part of the Pinellas County Schools. It focuses specifically with very capable high school seniors that are interested in various forms of understanding of work aspects. And I know as a parent, I've had 3 of my children go through the program. It's an excellent program. As part of being involved in Safety Harbor, we've had 3 people through and a 4th one this summer. And they're here for anywhere from 15 to 20 hours a week. They're available for either the spring or the fall session. And it's an excellent opportunity, I think, to be able, in this particular case, to get people that perhaps may be involved or interested in transportation or whatever at the senior level at high school to be able to see if it's something that they would be interested in to go into college as well. So I'd be happy to provide some information if you don't have people that have been interns in the past. That's it.
And to show how old that program is, I actually did that my senior year in high school.
Did you?
I did.
Yes.
I
yes.
did.
Yeah, I did a similar thing, and it's excellent. Excellent.
Dated.
Commissioner Barkley.
I'm also a vice mayor this year, so.
Vice Mayor, I didn't know that. Congrats.
Congratulations.
I'd just like to, first of all, congratulate Sue on her retirement and thank her for her service. And the other thing that I thought we saw today was the fact that things are really starting to come together, really starting to gel as far as upgrading the service, starting to integrate the ideas that will be implemented, assuming Greenlight Pinellas is successful,
When?
and continuing to really give not only good service to our ridership, but also a higher profile for PSTA, and that's positive, I think.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Commissioner Dighton.
I have nothing to add, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Latvala.
Thank you. I just want to mention, I went with Brad and the staff to Tarpon Springs City Council last week.
Okay.
And they're tailoring the messages now to the communities they talk to.
Yeah.
I spoke to the Bel Air Women's Republican Club, and my message was tailored to people from Bel Air and the cost savings, what it would look like. But I was really pleased to see the response from City Council when it was about them. It really is, I don't know whose idea that was, but it was brilliant. It really makes a difference as opposed to talking about this big county and what a house at this value, when you know that in your community the houses are a whole lot more or a whole lot less. It was really impressive, and I was very pleased with the response from City Council, and thank whoever dreamed that up. Probably Brad, but it makes a difference in the presentation. So if any of you all are speaking to a group, I urge you to get those facts about the community you're talking to, and makes a difference to them, I think.
That point hit home in St. Pete Beach last night with one of their council members saying, well, you have something I saw online was talking all about the benefits to Largo. And do you have any more information about someplace that's not so far north? It's all from where you sit, right?
It's all relative.
Yeah. Like it snows there.
Yeah.
Well, great job. And again, this is all about connecting with everyone, kind of like Penny for Pinellas. Everybody has to see what's in it for
their
community. Absolutely. Commissioner Diamond.
I also wanted to congratulate Sue on her 33 years of outstanding service to this agency as a new board member who's only been here for 3 months. Sue, congratulations. It's wonderful to see such dedicated public servants, and I think we'll find hopefully new Sues out there with our efforts to invest in employee training and coaching and some of the things you were talking about today, Brad. So, Sue, congratulations.
Thank you. Commissioner Long?
Yes, just another congratulations to you, Sue, and I hope you would thoroughly enjoy this next chapter in your life. Great job and good meeting, everybody.
Thank you. Commissioner Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to thank James and Jeff for the work on the crush capacity mitigation strategy. I think it will do a lot to improve our customer service, so thank you very much for that. I also wanted to congratulate Jim Egbert on the 99% score with the TSA-based review. I'm very familiar with the TSA-based review, and I know it's very challenging to get a 99%, so very, very good job on that. And Sue, enjoy your retirement.
Thank you. Commissioner Smith?
Thank you. I would just like to follow up. Thank you, Sue, for the service you've given. It's mentors like you that push people to be the best they can, and we really, really appreciate that. And as a city employee myself for a library, I wish there was more like you out there. And we need to strive, not only in our cities, but PSTA, and I deeply appreciate it. Second is I'd like to wish Commissioner Rice success in her coming college year at Harvard.
3 weeks.
3 weeks of college. Work hard, come back with a diploma, and we look forward to calling doctor. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith. Commissioner Rice?
I would also like to express my gratitude to Sue for her many, many years of service to PSTA. It was a very touching presentation from Brad and other comments, and it really just goes to show the many tangible and intangible benefits when we invest in our employees. So thank you, and good luck with this next stage of your life. Bless you. And I also wanted to say attaboy to our PSTA staff and our Greenlight Pinellas leaders for our unanimous vote in St. Pete Beach. And it shows that our continued education efforts in reaching out to our public officials, we just keep building more support for our future plans. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Rice. Commissioner Newton.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I also want to congratulate Sue. Excellent name. That was my mom's name. So I love that name. And your family for sharing her with us for 32 years. I see you're on to your next chapter with the grands back there. They're going to keep you busy. I got 6 of them, but thank you for your... There you go. Thank you for your 32 years of service. I want to read the names of the employees that receive accommodations. We had 27 bus drivers and 1 customer service rep. So if you bear with me while I hose up your name and take it out of love. The first one is Angela Baker. I want to read her comments too, if I can. It said that she was extremely nice driver. Thomas Baylor, nice and friendly. Joan Blue, she had 2 accommodations. Courteous, friendly, and a fantastic driver. Jane Buckley, courteous and professional. We have Joseph Calarco. He was helpful, courteous, excellent driver. Elizabeth Cater was nice and helpful. Driver. Joseph Denine was helpful and professional. Jean Flick was going above and beyond. Adrian Hampton Smith was friendly, helpful, and professional. Charles Hubbard, respectful and courteous. Charles King, excellent driving skills. Stacy Knowles, pleasant, helpful driver. Jeffrey LaRotunda, kind, helpful, and caring driver. Miguel Lareris, 3 accommodations. Patient, safe, friendly, and professional. James Murray, polite, helpful, on time. Oakley O'Hara, helpfully and kind. Mark O'Malley was courteous and professional. Lucy Patton, courteous, friendly, and polite. Dennis Robert, pleasant, helpful. Ira Roberts, 2 accommodations, nice, friendly, professional. Jose Santiago was nice, kind, and helpful. James Sharp, 2 accommodations, friendly and helpful. Peter Schultz was kind, friendly, and considerate. Dale Stefanski, helpful and knowledgeable. Vance Wagner was friendly and considerate. Michael Whitehead, courteous, friendly, and helpful. Hosa Wisdom was great customer service skills. And Gay Johnson was nice and helpful. That was the 1 customer service rep. I want to also thank PSTA for participating again in our summer youth intern program. I know they're going to hire several of the youth to work over the summer. It's a program that the city of St. Peter's funded $250,000 to, and we leverage it with private employers that will hire these kids, and we pay half the wage and take care of unemployment and whatnot. And it gives them exposure in their fields of interest. So for, I think, the 3rd or 4th year, PSC has been a good partner in employing these young people. As you know, they are the future. I mean, Vice Mayor Murray spoke to that. We've got to show them the way. They're going to be the ones. 32 years, we got another future PSTA here back there. We got to train them up, as the Bible says, in the way they should go, and they won't sprung from it. And last but not least, I want to congratulate the class of 2014. Go out, do big things, come back to your respective city, and help them run the city. Also have a safe summer. It's a lot going on. Just enjoy yourself. Don't do nothing foolish where it will prohibit you from going on to the next chapter in your life. And that's all I got, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Newton. Words of wisdom. Secretary Bujal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sue, I got to know you over a couple of things, but mainly through 2 things, and that was the new trolley that we had in North County, and the now I'm going to forget the name of our little bus. Connector. How could I forget that North County connector? And dealing with some of our seniors that live on County Road 1. And in every one of those cases, you were excited about the projects, and you were a consummate professional to try to solve any of the issues we had. And I really enjoyed working with you. And I'm sad that I won't be working with you anymore, but I know that you're going to go have some great fun. Enjoy the sun, enjoy your granddaughter a little more, or your grandchildren. So thank you very much for your service. I am also very excited about the graduations coming up and want to remind people that more young people will be on the road. So just
Stay home.
yeah. My 15-year-old just got his learner's permit. So, anyway, let's just look out for them, and if you can give them a hand up or a handout or whatever as they're going into their futures, take a look for them. So, I also wanted to tell you all that many of you know in Dunedin we have a very big St. Patrick's Day celebration, which of course was back in March, and it got completely rained out. So we are having St. Patty's Day Mulligan event on Saturday in our Edgewater Park. And so for any of you folks that want to come back and celebrate with us, please do that. It'll be an all-day into the evening event. Thank you.
Paint the water green or no?
No, no. I'm not putting anything unnatural in our water. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. I'm not following that. Vice Chair Johnson?
Thank you. A special shout out again to Sue Lanham. There were several major service adjustments, comprehensive bus plan review that I'd like to thank you on, especially as well as everything else. And I continue to be concerned with the US 19 service adjustments and with the changes in the construction and also the conversion to a express basically there. I am heartened that FDOT and their contractor has weekly meetings on the US 19 construction project, and as I understand it, on their agenda for that meeting every week, they have an item for PSTA issues to be brought up, and so I think that's progress in the FDOT world. Relating to Greenlight, I'm really heartened to see the presentation on the BRT that Mr. Miller gave today. I've talked to several people out there, and as much as we've done, they still would want additional detail on some of these areas. And I think that's a message that we're progressing on, but the faster we can get that out and available to them, we will capture more of the agenda and move into the vacuum that is there on that information for some of those people that really want to go down into the details. I just shared with you that in April I did go on a business trip to Houston and had a chance to ride their light rail out there. And although I didn't talk to the transit agency there to get more background on it, I did notice that they're expanding their system with now what I consider an east-west route. It was under construction, and so that city, which is the fourth largest city I think in the U.S. and probably the most sprawling city, most car-centric, is adding to their transit investment. I'd like to compliment Mr. Miller for his leadership. It seems like every meeting we come up with another creative way to improve the service, whether it's the back of the bus visibility improvement. What was it? The improvement project, just to keep image. Or it's
washing the buses.
Dealing with some of the compensation plans to make it more understandable for board members and for the employees, and how to motivate employees. I'm just continually impressed, so thank you. And then just in closing, I think we have our summer hall pass program that we probably need to remind folks of. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I will echo all the comments here and echo your comments. I am impressed as well with the leadership of this board. I know y'all are everywhere talking about where we need to go in terms of transit, and also equally impressed by our staff, Brad and Bob and Mr. Bradford, the entire staff. Y'all are doing a tremendous job. Y'all are everywhere, and we hear about it. and y'all are getting the facts out there. There was a meeting in my neighborhood in Lakewood Estates where we went maybe a couple months ago, and the opponents went last week, and just the citizens there had some very straightforward questions that supported Greenlight. And that's because y'all had already been there and given them all the facts. So, again, facts are stubborn things, and if we just stick to that and make sure folks understand it and understand why it's important for their neighborhood, as y'all are doing, we're on the right route. So thank you all for your hard work. Sue, I know you're feeling the love. I just echo all my colleagues. Thank you so much for everything you've done for our community. Anything else for the good of the order? Seeing none, we adjourn.